You do not wake inside a legend. You wake with your cheek pressed into sand that is not only sand anymore. 10 years of men have emptied themselves onto this beach, and the tide only ever carries half of it back out. The smell is sour drains, wet ash, rancid fat. Behind you, 1,000 hulls sit rotting in the shallows, their timbers gone soft and green where the water touches them. Ahead of you, a wall stands on a low hill above a plain of gray mud. You have looked at that wall every morning for so long that your eyes no longer register it. Nobody on this shore is a hero. The heroes have tents with wooden floors and women to carry their water. You have a hollow in the ground shaped by your own body, and the man who slept in it before you died in it, and nobody moved him for most of a day. You are a spearman. Not a champion, not a king, not a name anyone will carve into anything. You were counted onto a ship in a bay in Greece, and you will not be counted off it. Your chance of leaving this shore alive is worse than 1 in 5, and almost nothing that kills the men around you will be a Trojan. The first thing that kills you here has no weapon and makes no sound. There is a river on this plain. The poets will call it silver. It is not silver. It moves slow and warm across flat ground, and 100,000 men have been drinking from it, washing in it, and dying beside it for 10 years. Upstream, the horse lines stand in the shallows. The animals foul the water where they drink, and the current carries it down past the washing places, past the cooking fires, past the men filling skins to take back to their hollows in the sand. There is no word here for contamination. There is only water that looks like water. You drink it because thirst arrives faster than caution. You drink it warm and slightly thick and slightly sweet, and you notice nothing at all. 3 days later, your gut turns to liquid. This is how most men on this beach die. Not on a spear point, not under a chariot wheel. They die squatting behind a ship hull at night, with their legs shaking too badly to hold them up. Dysentery empties a grown man in 2 days. Your eyes sink back into your skull. Your skin stops springing back when you pinch it. Your tongue swells and goes gray and cracks. You keep drinking the same water because your body is screaming for water, and the water is the thing killing you, and nobody on this shore knows that. The camp latrine is the beach. That is the whole arrangement, 10 years of it. The sand behind the ships is soft in a way that sand should not be soft, and every man here has learned where to step and where not to step, and everyone still steps wrong in the dark. Flies own this place. They land on your mouth while you sleep. They walk across the corpse of a man dead of fever in the morning, and across the barley in your bowl at midday, and nobody connects the two things because there is nothing to connect them with. The plain beyond the camp is marsh in the low places. It stands green and still through the hot months, and it breathes mosquitoes at dusk in clouds thick enough to change the color of the air. Men here get a fever that comes in waves, hot, then shaking, then nothing, for 2 days, then hot again. It hollows a man out over years without ever quite finishing him. The gods get blamed for it. The water gets blamed for it. Nobody blames the insect. Rank does not protect you from the fly, but rank decides where you sleep. The kings pitch their shelters at the ends of the line where the wind comes clean off the straight. You sleep in the middle, where 40,000 men breathe on each other, and the smell has nowhere to go. Disaster sorts men quickly. A siege sorts them slowly, and that is worse. Almost none of this was ever written down by anyone who lived through it. The men who could write were standing on the wall or sitting in the tent with the wooden floor. If you want the rest of history told from down here in the mud instead of from up there, subscribe. This channel keeps going back for the people nobody bothered to count. The second thing that kills you comes through your mouth, and it takes longer. You do not eat what you think Greeks eat. There are no olives here. There is no honey. There is barley, and there is barley, and under the barley there is more barley, and it has been sitting in the hold of a ship or in a pit dug into wet ground, and it has gone slightly soft and slightly gray, and it smells faintly of a cellar. You grind it between two stones yourself. The stones shed grit into the flour. Every meal you eat carries stone dust, and after 10 years of it, your back teeth are worn down flat, and the nerves are exposed, and the pain in your jaw is a permanent guest that you have simply stopped mentioning. The bread is a flat, hard disc cooked on a stone by the fire. You soak it in wine to make it chewable. The wine is thin and sour, and cut with resin, and cut again with water, and it tastes like a barrel, and it is the safest liquid in the camp because nothing much lives in it. Meat arrives when an animal dies or when a raid succeeds. Mostly it arrives when an animal dies. The old ox that pulled timber for 2 seasons goes into the pot when its legs give out, and 40 men share it, and you get gristle and marrow, and you crack the bone open with a stone for what is inside. Fish swim past the camp in enormous numbers. Men here eat them only when things get bad because eating fish marks you as desperate and poor, and every man on this beach would rather starve a little longer than be seen as the man who eats what washes up. Hunger and pride fight each other for years on this shoreline. Hunger wins by the 6th winter. The supply ships stop coming with any reliability after the 4th year. Greece is far. The crossing is dangerous. The kings who sent grain at the start have their own problems now and their own sons growing up without them. So the army feeds itself the only way it can. It burns the countryside. You row out at night to coastal towns that have nothing to do with any of this. Farming villages with mud brick walls and 40 families and a grain pit and some goats. You come over the wall before dawn. The men are killed where they stand. The grain goes into sacks. The cattle are driven down to the boats. The women are put in the boats too, and they will be grinding barley for a king's household by the end of the month, and nobody will ever write their names. You do this because otherwise you do not eat. That is the whole of the reasoning. There is no other reasoning underneath it. Inside the walls on the hill, it is not better. It is only more organized. A city under siege does not starve all at once. It starves in a specific order, and the order tells you everything about how it is built. The palace stores are sealed and guarded and counted. Salt meat and oil and last year's grain and the year before that. The elite eat. They eat less than they used to, and they complain about it, and they are still eating. Below them, the craftsmen trade what they own for food. A bronze pin for a cup of barley. A woven cloak for 2. Then a bronze pin buys nothing, because bronze cannot be eaten, and everyone has worked that out at the same moment. Below them, the refugees. The countryside emptied into the city when the ships came, and those families have been living against the inside of the wall for 10 years in shelters of cloth and scrap. They get what falls through. Their children have the swollen bellies and the thin reddish hair and the old faces that hunger puts on the young. Hunger is not shared equally anywhere. It climbs one body and steps politely over another. If you think 10 years of bad water and gray bread is the worst this shore has to offer, stay where you are. The part that breaks men comes next, and it does not come from the city at all. The third thing that kills you is your own body failing in slow motion. Bronze does not cut like iron cuts. It is soft, it bends. A spear point that strikes a shield rim folds over and has to be hammered flat again on a stone before the next fight. And every man here can feel the wobble in his own weapon. But bronze does not need to cut well to kill you. It only needs to open you. A shallow wound on the forearm is nothing on the day it happens. You wash it in seawater because salt is what everyone believes in. 4 days later, the edges go tight and shiny and hot. A red line starts crawling up the inside of your arm towards your armpit, and you watch it move. There is nothing anyone can do about that line. There is no cutting it out. There is no draining it away. You lie in your hollow in the sand and it reaches your chest, and your fever climbs, and you talk to people who are not there, and then you stop talking. Tetanus is the other one. and tetanus is worse. A puncture from anything dirty, a splinter from a hull, a stake, a tooth. 7 days of nothing, then your jaw locks. Then your back arches so hard that your heels and your head are the only parts of you touching the ground, and men have to hold you down, and there is nothing to give you, and you are entirely awake for all of it. The armor is its own enemy. Full bronze plate over the shoulders and chest weighs as much as a small person, and it holds heat like a cooking pot. In the Anatolian summer, the plane hits temperatures that empty a man's water in an afternoon. Men drop in formation without ever being touched. They go down and the ranks close over them, and later somebody drags them out. The helmet is boar tusk and leather, and it presses on the same 2 spots on your skull every single day for a decade, until the skin there is dead and shiny. The greaves cut the same line into your shins. You have sores that have never once closed, and never once been anything but sores. Winter takes the other half. The wind that comes down the strait in the cold months is nothing like winter in Greece. It carries off the steppe, and it goes through leather, and it goes through wool, and it finds the bronze against your chest and pulls the heat out of you through the metal. Men learn to strip the armor off and wear stolen sheepskin under it, greasy and stinking and warm. Frostbite takes the smallest toes first. They go white, then gray, then black, and then they come off. And men here call it nothing at all because it is normal. The tents are cloth. The shelters are cloth over sticks and packed sand. Rain turns the whole camp into a shallow lake, and everything you own is wet for 4 months, and it never dries, and neither do you. Chest infections move through the lines like a rumor. At night the camp coughs. 40,000 men coughing at once sounds like surf. You are never alone in your own clothes. Lice live in the seams of the wool, and the seams are where you check them every few days with your thumbnail, because there is nothing else to be done about it. The men sit in rows in the sun doing this, and it is one of the few quiet, pleasant hours of the week. 10 years of scratching leaves scars across your ribs that you will carry to your grave and never once think about. And there is the burning ground at the far end of the beach. When the fever season peaks, the pyres run day and night, and the wood has to be brought from further and further inland until men are pulling apart their own shelters to feed them. The smoke sits low over the camp when the wind drops. It gets into the barley. It gets into the wine. It gets into the wine. You learn what a person smells like burning, and then you eat your evening meal in it, and you learn that you can do that too. Fear makes everybody look equal eventually. Cold gets there faster. The 4th thing that kills you is your position in a line of men. You have heard the songs. In the songs, 2 champions meet in open ground, and everyone else stands back respectfully to watch. That is not what happens. What happens is that you stand shoulder to shoulder with men you know and hold a shield of layered oxhide that covers you from throat to knee, and you push. The rank behind pushes you. The rank behind them pushes them. You cannot fall down because there is nowhere to fall to. You cannot step back because there are 3 men there. You breathe other men's breath and the dust comes up off the ground and you can see almost nothing at all. Spear points come over the top of the shields from the front rank. You are not fighting anyone. You are holding weight. Your job is to be mass. And when the line breaks, it does not break heroically. It breaks the way a wall of sand breaks. Everything at once. And then men run. And running is when men die, because a spear in the back needs no skill at all. If a champion in full bronze comes down the field towards you, do not stand. There is no story where you stand. These men have trained since they were 9 years old, and they are wearing a fortune in metal, and you are wearing hide and hope. Go down into the mud. Cover the back of your neck with your shield. Lie among men who are already finished. Breathe shallow. That is the whole tactic, and it has kept more men alive on this plain than courage ever did. The rewards are sorted before the fight begins. When a town falls, the plunder goes to the kings first, and the champions second, and the men who held the line get what is left after 2 rounds of choosing. You will not get the bronze cauldron, you will not get the horse. You might get a cloak off a corpse and a share of grain, and that is what 10 years of your life is worth here in the open market. The great quarrels of this war are quarrels about that division. Kings stop the whole army over who owns which captured woman. And while they argue on the shore, men in the middle of the camp die of fever, and nobody counts them because nobody has ever been counting them. Even terror is ranked here. Be honest with yourself for a moment. Not how bravely you would have fought, how long you would have lasted. Put the number in the comments and put down the real one, because almost everybody guesses far too high. The last thing that kills you comes on a quiet night, and it does not feel like danger at first. One morning in the 10th year, the beach is empty. The ships are gone, the horse lines are gone, the fires are cold and scattered, and the huts are burned, and the sand where 40,000 men lived is just sand with rubbish in it. 10 years of noise stopped in a single night. From the wall, it looks like the end of the world in the good direction. People come out of the gates for the first time in a decade and walk on ground that was not safe yesterday. They touch the ash of the enemy's fires with their hands. Children who have never once been outside the wall stand in open country and do not know what to do with that much sky. And there is a shape left behind on the plain, wooden and enormous, and standing there deliberately. Whatever it actually was, and the truth is buried under 3,000 years of retelling the pattern of that night, is not in doubt. A siege does not end when a wall comes down. A siege ends when the people inside decide it has ended. That decision is made with relief and with wine, and it is made by exhausted people who have earned it. The wine that comes out that night has been kept back for 10 years, sweet and thick and unwatered. People drink it in the streets because there is finally something to drink it about. The gates stand open because closing them would mean the thing is not over. By the deep part of the night, the city is asleep. In a way, it has not been asleep since before the ships came. The fleet never went home. It went behind an island a few hours off the coast and waited for a fire signal. What happens next is not a battle. Nobody calls it a battle. Fighting inside a city at night is butchery in confined spaces, bronze in doorways, bronze on stairs, men pulled out of storerooms and finished in the street. There is no line to hold and no formation to keep and no way to know who is behind you. Roofs are thatch and beam, and the fire moves faster than people can decide anything. The smoke drops down into the narrow streets and lies there, and people who have survived 10 years of siege die on their knees 100 paces from their own doors because they cannot find air. The men are killed. All of them. This is not cruelty in the way we mean cruelty. It is arithmetic. A boy left alive becomes a man with a reason in 15 years, and everyone involved understands that trade exactly. The women and the children who survive the night are property by morning. They are walked down to the beach and counted and divided by rank and put onto ships and taken to households in Greece, where they will grind barley and carry water and raise other women's children and die old in a country they were carried to. Empire does not save a person from falling ash. Neither does a wall. Neither does 10 years of holding out. And if you are the spearman, if you are the 1 in 5 who is still standing on that beach when it finishes, you are 35 years old and you look 50. Your teeth are ground flat. Your shins are open. 2 toes are gone. Your gut has never been right since the 3rd year, and it never will be. You have a share of somebody else's household goods in a sack, and you are going home. Except home has had 10 years to move on without you. The ships that leave this shore scatter. Storms take some of them on the way out. Others come ashore in the wrong country entirely, and the men aboard spend years working their way east along a coastline that does not want them. Some go home and find the fields sold and the wife remarried, and a stranger's children in the doorway. Some go home and are killed in the first week by the people who kept the house running while they were away. Within 2 generations, the palaces that sent these ships are burned and empty. The writing stops. The records stop. Nobody in Greece can read for 400 years, and the whole thing collapses so completely that the people living in the ruins later assume giants built them. The war ends. The world that fought it does not survive the win. If you walk the whole length of that beach with them, leave the like where you stand. It is more of a mark than most of these men ever got. You do not survive 10 years on that beach by being brave. Bravery is used up in the first 18 months and then it is gone, and what is left is the men who learned where the water was cleanest and which hollow stayed dry, and when to lie down in the mud and stay there. That is the whole secret, and it is not a good one. The men the songs are about are all dead. The men who came home by being nobody in particular for 10 years running. And when they were very old, and someone asked them what the war was like, they would have said the smell. Not the walls, not the heroes, not the horse. The smell. Sour drains, wet ash, rancid fat. 10 years of it. And a river that looked exactly like water.